All right. Hey, good afternoon, folks. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. This is your afternoon update, part one of two on Hurricane Helene. System was upgraded at 11 a.m. to a hurricane from the National Hurricane Center. It is now moving away from Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, entering the Gulf of Mexico, and looks like it's poised to significantly intensify throughout the night and early tomorrow and make landfall late Thursday evening along the Big Bend of Florida in the Appalachee Bay region. Overall, no major forecast changes today, but we have had some updates to talk about. And like I said yesterday, we're going to do this in two parts. This is just the general storm update, large, broad brush kind of update. And then we're going to talk more regional impacts. Jacksonville, we'll try to talk about some other areas of Florida in the second video, just so this video isn't 10 miles long, you know. Afternoon update from the National Hurricane Center, 5 p.m., hot off the press, Eastern time, maximum sustained winds up to 85 miles an hour, Category 1 hurricane. Movement now to the due north at 12 miles an hour. That was a north-northwest motion earlier, so we're seeing that turn underway as it leaves the Yucatan and begins to move northward. Overall, the Hurricane Center's forecast track has not changed. We can see that line is still very much right along that western part of Appalachee Bay. No major adjustments throughout all day today. We've been locked in where that line is just to the west, or east rather, of Apalachicola. But again, most of Appalachie Bay and some of that point to the west is also still under that cone's influence, and that eye could still come ashore anywhere in this region. So don't discount exactly where the storm's going to come ashore. But overall, no major changes. 1 p.m. Thursday, this is forecast to be about level with Tampa Bay, and then it should move in about 7 or 8 o'clock on Thursday evening, given the current timeline. The Hurricane Center's biggest change from earlier today is that they are now explicitly forecasting a Category 4 major hurricane. They forecast within 24 hours that this system will jump from an 85-mile-an-hour Cat 1 to a 130-mile-an-hour Cat 4. That is an explicit Hurricane Center forecast, and they are typically a bit conservative. So like we've been saying on the page for a while now, probably Cat 3 or more likely Cat 4, this is now explicitly forecast to be a catastrophic Category 4 major hurricane. Looking at your watches and warnings here today, this is the 1 p.m. cone. I don't know if the new experimental cone is up yet. We can try to refresh the page one more time. No, it's still not up. Overall, no major changes. Hurricane warnings in red on this page in effect for much of the Big Bend region, all of Tallahassee, all the western panhandle from about, it looks like maybe the Perry area over, maybe a little bit further to the east. But it does not include Jacksonville. But hurricane warnings also for a large portion of southwest Georgia and even a couple counties of Alabama, extreme southeast Alabama in on this as well. This will produce a widespread wind event well away from the coast. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But there's a very good reason hurricane warnings extend halfway up into Georgia. In the blue, we have tropical storm warnings. So that's pretty much all of the rest of the Florida Peninsula, some locations to the west of the Florida Peninsula, and several more counties of southeast Alabama. And also those tropical storm warnings extend up the South Carolina coast. At 5 p.m., they did increase this to all the South Carolina coast is now under a tropical storm warning. Although the further north you go, it's just more for the coastal counties. But as you go back towards western and northwestern South Carolina, you guys, along with the rest of Georgia and even some of North Carolina in the yellow, are under tropical storm watches for potential tropical storm sustained winds going into Friday. Yes, that is up to Asheville, North Carolina. A hurricane making landfall in Tallahassee in the Big Bend of Florida is pushing tropical storm watches all the way into Asheville, North Carolina. If that does not tell you the scope and magnitude of the hurricane we're dealing with, I'm not sure how else I could possibly say it. So afternoon satellite presentation of Helene, it looked a little rough for the last couple of hours as it moved away from the Yucatan. A pretty evident finger of dry air got into the storm earlier. If we back this up over here on Cyclonic Wicks, satellite presentation. I've been trying this guy's side out. It's a little cleaner. I think it's a little easier on the video. There was a pretty clear finger of dry air earlier. We can see it wrapping into the core of Helene. This kind of knocked down the thunderstorm tops a little bit. We've had kind of this primitive eye wall trying to start more on that west and southwest side and wrap around, but the dry air kind of choked off a few thunderstorms. So you can see this dry air slot really clear right here, and this is moving down in towards the core of the hurricane. However, if I start clicking this forward, you're going to see pretty quick what happens is notice how fast that northern southern edge kind of builds back in, those thunderstorms begin to build around that eye again, or that primitive kind of core, that is indicating that we are about to see this thing intensify. And now we're starting to see one of these like racing vertical hot towers where you start seeing it, the convection quickly explode around that eye. It is definitely in the early organizational stages of a full developed eye. And although it's not there yet, being at this stage, moving into the Gulf of Mexico is not good news, and that's why we continue to lean so high on this hurricane. So as far as the actual organization and the intensification goes, we're going to look at the HMON models. I think this is actually a really good model this afternoon. This was a little bit earlier today. The model has the pressure a little too low, but notice the overall structure is very good. It has the dry air intrusion. It has that broken kind of like semi-eye wall on the southwest side and that northern side kind of moving down. So the model initialized quite well with the structure of the hurricane, which is what we look for more than numbers. 967, that pressure is probably too low, but it's got a really good feel of what the hurricane's doing right now. So if we take this model forward in time, you see how the next couple of hours into early Thursday, more steady intensification. The pressure drops some, not an incredible amount, but then as we get in, 967 tonight, so about 5 or 6 millibars overnight into tonight, but then it starts to explosively intensify early Thursday morning. That makes sense. You give this about 6 hours to get away, finish its organizational processes, and then later tonight, we expect that rapid kind of explosive intensification to begin to go underway. It builds an eye wall. The pressure continues to free fall. At this point, it's closing in on the Big Bend. This is late tomorrow afternoon, showing a peak intensity of 932 millibars of the fully developed eye around that hurricane. I think that this is not a bad call. The pressure is probably a little bit too low. I would probably say this means that we'll probably see something in the low 940s or maybe really upper 930s. But I really want to stress that that's a very intense hurricane. And I talked about this in a post this morning, but guys, this is a large and deep hurricane. This is not going to be one of those storms where the beach towns from here to here get a hurricane and everybody else gets a tropical storm. And, the water rise is kind of crappy in a few places, but otherwise we're like, oh, whatever, we're moving on with our lives. Like everyone in this region is going to feel this thing. This is going to push a catastrophic amount of water into this region of the Big Bend. All of this hurricane is going to be pushing northward. It's going to be moving, according to the forecast here. If I take you back to Hurvac and catch this up to about the landfall point, notice how we go into this part of the storm, moving northward at more than 20 miles an hour as it comes in. So not only do you have the winds moving, 115 to 130 miles an hour on this side of the storm, you have to add the forward motion of the hurricane, add that 20 to 25 miles an hour on top of that. And because this is undergoing extratropical processes with all that air aloft, you might have all this kind of pivoting as well. So you may have 3 different things all working to just shove this hurricane to the coast. Guys, this is going to be a ferocious hurricane. And I don't talk like this with every storm. You guys hopefully have seen some other videos of mine. I mean, I wasn't doing this with Francine. I wasn't doing this with Debbie. I don't say these kind of things unless I need to. And this is going to be an incredible storm for this region of Florida and the Big Bend, and Tallahassee is going to get hurricane force winds. Gainesville could see some really strong hurricane force gusts at times. Cedar, Keystone, Hatchie. I know you guys kind of got lucky in some of these other storms. Not this one. It's not going to be the same. Please do not think. If you have a relative that's like, oh, we're staying because the other one wasn't that bad and they always lie about these things. Guys, this pressure, even if this doesn't verify, this is an incredibly deep hurricane. This is going to be felt so far away from the center, and it's going to bring so many impacts. And the fact that it's flying into the coast at 20 plus miles an hour, like I cannot pound the table enough to say how bad this is going to be in this region. And again, don't say this kind of stuff unless it's warranted. And this is going to be a very strong hurricane as it moves in. We can also see on the GFS that upper level wind really supercharging the storm as it moves up. One of the reasons we expect so much intensification early to late Thursday as it moves through this area is because of this upper level low ventilating the storm aloft along with this great outflow channel. You've got 2 different systems working perfectly to move air away from the storm without actually providing destructive interference, i.e. wind shear. So you get all the benefits of the upper level outflow, but not so much the actual impacts of the wind shear until really it's too late. Like on the HMON, for example, it does show as the storm moves in, maybe there's a slight weakening or a leveling off. It shows the southern eye wall being exposed. You could have a little bit of shelf water interference, that kind of thing, but it's going to be strong when it comes in. It's going to be a powerful hurricane. Overall, other than that, models have held very consistent throughout the day. They are locked in at Apalachicola, just to the left or just to the right, but it's not going to be far. As I posted about, if you see these hurricane models that are like bringing it over to like Cedar Key and then up, that's not happening. It's not going to happen at this point. It is going to be somewhere in this region. Yes, there's wiggles left and right. It could wind up coming in a little bit west or east of Apalachicola or a little bit further up the bay. It is not going to careen into Tampa Bay or careen into Cedar Key at the last minute, or nor is it going to peel off towards Pensacola. So if you see these other models and computer graphics showing these other crazy stuff, just follow the official forecast. You know, the official forecast is what we're working with, and they're laying it right on the ensemble guidance. And again, small adjustments at this point. It's a large, powerful hurricane. Doesn't matter exactly where it winds up. Everybody in this area needs to be ready with every preparation undertaken. Again, intensity model still in that Cat 3, Cat 4 range. Hurricane Center is at the top end of these, and these will likely catch up as the storm gets closer. And so that overall is my update, guys. I mean, everything else pretty much on schedule. Helene is going to go off tonight and be a very strong hurricane tomorrow. Inclement weather and everything's going to start overspreading South Florida tonight, North Florida tomorrow afternoon, and of course Big Bend region also in the afternoon to evening. Everyone will be in on it, and it's going to suck when it comes through. Our second video is going to have all the regional update stuff. We're going to talk Jacksonville. We're going to kind of talk about impacts, surge, rain, winds, tornadoes, all that stuff. And we're going to try to talk a little bit about the inland areas, Georgia, South Carolina, and kind of give you guys an idea as well. So that'll be in the second video. That's what I got for you guys this afternoon. As always, thanks for watching and have a good one.